In this session, we will discuss professional ethics in computing, and we will take a look at some notable cases as well. Why do we need professional ethics? The situations like TRAC 25 that we discussed in session 7, and for example the Y2K problem as well, and these all result because of complex relationships, in fact, with people, usually with people who have severely limited understanding of information technology systems and how they work. I mean, because they're just common people, as we say. And the work of computer professionals involves social relationships. This is a fact. Although we're, most of our time is spent with computers as a student, but in fact it involves a lot of social interactions in the real world. Usually this is realized with the clients, employers, and other stakeholders as well. So when we take a look at the paradigm of professions, there is we can talk about a social mechanism for managing expertise and deploying it in ways in which it benefits the society. That's what we call a profession. That's the idea about the professions. And you cannot declare or propose that a profession is a profession. In fact, it is not an individual decision. It is not you cannot create a profession just by signing a few laws, passing a few laws, or just making some declarations. It's impossible. Societies choose to recognize professions as professions. That's the idea. And it looks like a group of people making a pact with society and making some promises and commitments and gaining special powers and protections in return within that society. For example, the doctors, the police officers, or the lawyers, and so on. There are many different professions that could be given as example. This is not about the salaries, or we're not talking about the social status of people here. It is about being strongly differentiated than others, than other people, other professions, and other citizens. That's the idea about the professions, being strongly differentiated from the others. When we take a look at the characteristics of professions, the first one is the mastery of an esoteric body of knowledge. Usually, most of the professions has this, which is abstract and systematized and can be mastered only through disciplined study. Typically, this should be some sort of higher education. And in that profession, the researchers devote themselves to continuous improvement of the body of knowledge. So we can say that the people who work in research institutions, the people who work, your professors working in our department, for example, they try to contribute to computer science and computer engineering, for example, while the practitioners use the knowledge to help people, or to transfer this knowledge to society, to end users, for example. That's what you will most probably doing when you graduate in a company or something. When you're writing code or creating projects in a company, you will be practitioners. We have, for example, such people in engineering. I just gave some examples. This is the same for the medicine science as well. Some of the researchers, doctors, try to contribute in laboratories, seeking some new research or new medications or something like this. But the other ones are practitioners that we go to a doctor and ask for their help or ask for their advice for medication prescriptions, etc. These are called practitioners. That's the idea. And the autonomy is also important, because this is the second characteristics of what we call professions. A good deal of autonomy in daily work should be available compared to employees who take orders and employees who are closely supervised. So when we talk about a profession, the members of this profession are not closely supervised like the traditional employees workers that we see in other sectors or other domains. When we talk about autonomy, both while working and when they're regulating themselves within that profession as well, they can set some admission standards. They can set some educational requirements on their own within that profession. The members of that profession will decide on this. And they can put some standards of practice, for example, and they will be self-policing themselves. Where outsiders, the people who do not belong to that profession, are not capable of understanding the esoteric body of knowledge that we discussed in a few moments ago. That's the idea, that's the autonomy of professions. Okay. And the third one is we need a formal organization to represent the members of that profession. We talk about a single unifying organization recognized by regional or national governments. Even in some cases, they can specify some criteria for licensing members as well. Like you need to, for example, take this, education, for example, you need to apply to this course for a while to get a license to work in a particular domain, for example. And they also have some power to expel individual members from that profession as well if they conduct some unethical work, or if they cause harm, whatever, or they do any kind of misconduct. That's the idea about formal organizations. A profession should have a formal organization as well. And a profession should also have the fourth characteristics is the code of ethics. A code of professional conduct is required, which is a public statement for public. You communicate with the public. You swear them. You have an oath like this. It is a formal specification of a special contract with the public. Often it is difficult to enforce, but a very important issue. For example, Hippocrates' oath of medical practitioners, or the code of ethics of ACM, whatever. We have it to a degree, for example. And the last one, but not the least, we talk about a culture of practice here. It should be a distinctive culture which defines that profession. For example, the people who work in medicine or medical science are obsessed with health, where the auditors should have unbiased judgment, etc. Each profession has some characteristics. For example, the people who work in medicine, they value science but compassionate to patients as well. But when we take a look at engineering, it emphasizes efficiency and objectivity in our project, any kind of project, whether it's a building construction or it is a software engineering project. We all emphasize efficiency and objectivity here. And the culture of professions sometimes are under attack. Like sometimes it is easy to see other people in society sees these profession members as some stereotypes. Like the people, the doctors are usually called arrogant. The police is seen as ruthless, for example, and lawyers are generally understood as, okay, dishonest people, like, and engineers, again, they are often realized like they are socially inept and myopic, like, but to a degree, of course, we cannot say that every member of that profession is like this, but it's like typical stereotypes, and society recognition is also important in the idea of, in the characteristics of professions as well. So we talk about a social contract with society here, which is based on a system of trust, but we should be careful that the social contract does not exist forever. It's impossible. It can be broken or renegotiated where required. For example, if there are serious misconduct in a particular profession, for example, in computer engineering, or for example in medical science or something, this contract can shake or can be hurt, or it can be negotiated again, renegotiated again. And when we try to sort out computing and its status as a profession, it is not an easy task. We should agree on this. It's a challenging one because computer experts occupy so many different roles in a wide variety of contexts. You can work in many type of domains, and a wide range of education system possibilities are also available. Okay, the computer engineering, computer science, information engineering, information systems engineering, okay, and so on, like maybe 20 different names under departments and in different faculties as well. And even some successful specialists have no formal training in computing at all. Just take a look at some celebrity figures in computing industry, for example. I will not name them, but just think about the popular people who are the CEOs of very popular companies. You see their comments in many different media channels, for example. This is also another issue about sorting out computing as a profession. We should also agree that there is a huge demand for computer expertise, and sometimes our manpower may not be enough for this. So it is not surprising that many people who have degrees in fields other than computing are transferring themselves into computing profession as well. We cannot say that it is some shocking scenario for us when we sit at a computer desk in a company, for example, like when we start our jobs. The people sitting on our right-hand side should be, for example, an electronical engineering, or our friend working in the left table, the table on your left-hand side, could be a person in, for example, I don't know, maybe a geology engineer or something who has a master in computing, for example. It's pretty common. And it is still a relatively new field at all, and the most differentiated one between all those titles can be software engineering. So it should be emphasized more maybe in the next years, in the upcoming years, I guess.